Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for today's presentation of the 2020 Doody's core titles. We're going to be talking about this trusted collection development tool today and how useful it is for academic libraries. Today's presentation is a joint presentation between Rittenhouse and Doody Enterprises. So this is an ongoing online open course that Rittenhouse conducts from time to time. I am Nicole Gallo. I'm the Executive Director of Sales and Marketing for Rittenhouse. And I'm joined today by Dan Doody, who is the President and CEO of Doody Enterprises. A few housekeeping items before we get going with the webinar. As I mentioned, this is an ongoing presentation. We record all of our ROOCs and they are made available on our YouTube page. We will be sending out a follow-up, which will have a link to this recording. So if you want to share it or take another look, you will have access to that in a follow-up email. Your audio is muted. So if you're trying to get our attention, you can use the question toolbar or raise your hand, and we'll try to check that periodically. We will have questions and answers reserved for the end of this session. So we'll definitely stay on the line and get to as many of your questions as possible. We try to always keep these presentations to about 30 minutes or less. So again, use your toolbar to submit any questions that you might have. And finally, if you look in your toolbar under handouts, you will see that there are 3 handouts there, some more information about Doody's core titles, and some Rittenhouse collection development information. So feel free to download those at any time during this webinar. It might keep you from having to take copious notes as we go through this. Okay, we're going to get started. And I'll let you know what we're going to be discussing today. We're going to talk a little bit about Rittenhouse and Doody Enterprises. We're going to talk about how important the information needs of the health sciences user is and how that affects you in the academic setting. We are going to take a look at the newly released Doody's core titles and talk about the services offered by Doody's, and of course review how Rittenhouse integrates some of these really handy tools. We work with Doody's to make them available. So just a little bit about Rittenhouse. If you're not familiar with us, I think most of you probably are. Our mission is really to provide retailers, libraries, and other businesses with access to information, so both print and electronic information in the fields of medicine, nursing, and allied health. So we work with most of the leading publishers in health sciences. We wrap that service with a lot of different customized services that add value to what you're trying to do in your library. So, and that's that handout that we have attached there, but we work to partner and grow through innovation, and we are very collaborative. So any feedback that you have, we're always interested in hearing about that. Okay, and I'm going to turn it over to Dan for a second here to talk about Doody's.
So thank you, Nicole, and thank you to Rittenhouse for inviting me to the party. And thank you to all of the academic librarians who have taken time out of your busy day to be with us today. So Doody Enterprises has been around since January of 1993, so we're in our 28th year, and we've been publishing reviews of newly published health sciences books ever since then. Over time, we've published more than 40,000 reviews written by about 9,000 different academically affiliated healthcare professionals. Just one, those reviews being just one type of timely targeted information updates resource that we provide, aimed specifically at the needs of the collection development specialist within a health sciences library.
Okay. So I'm going to launch a poll right now. So if you are engaged in looking at your screen, we'd like you to answer a few questions. The poll's open. So we really want to know how familiar you are with Doody's and Doody's core titles, Doody's reviews, and whether or not you've used any of these tools. So if you've used them, let us know. You can pick as many answers as you'd like. And also, if you have taken advantage of some of the tools that Rittenhouse has, if you're not familiar, let us know too. That's what we're here for today, is to make sure that everyone is informed. So we still have, we have about 60% of participants have voted. So I'll leave this open here for just another second.
Nicole, this is Dan. DCT stands for Duty's Core Titles, for those who aren't familiar with that acronym.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I should have been more descriptive. It's like a second language to me, Dan. So, okay, we'll give you just about another second or two. We've had almost everyone cast their vote at this point. And I'll go ahead. It looks pretty evenly spread. Around 40% of those on the line have participated or used Duty's core titles or Duty's reviews and the star ratings. About 20% of you are not familiar at all, so this is great. We will be sharing some information about that today. So thank you for taking the time to answer that. Okay, so a little bit about information needs and collection development. Really big concern in the academic setting, how you are ensuring that the needs of those specialized users are met. You know, you have so many other considerations on an academic campus. I edited this slide to add pandemics because this seems to be what everyone obviously is focused on right now, and how to wade through this tumultuous time. And I know it's taking up a lot of time right now for everyone. So, you know, you have a lot going on in the library, and we hope with some of this information and some of the tools that we're going to share today, we can make that a little bit easier for you. Access, again, now with campuses closed and everyone working remotely, access is probably where you're spending a lot of your time, making sure those patrons are getting to the information and the resources that you have. So really important that you're focused on that access, and we can help with making sure what they're accessing meets their needs. Of course, budgets are always an issue, and your staffing. Again, with everything going on with COVID-19, we know these are on the forefront of discussions. Space, the space in your library. Are you moving from print to digital collections? And what does that look like for you in health sciences? And the health sciences user, those nursing students, those allied health students, they have different needs oftentimes and like different ways of accessing information. So we can work with you on that. Your scope of collections, we know those are continually changing. We see fluctuations with enrollments, new programs in health sciences, all of these things that we can have discussions with you about. Digital technologies right now more important than ever, as most of your users are remote. So we're here to have that discussion. And then of course, discoverability and integration. So all of these things you're juggling, and we know that. So we are here to really talk about how we can work together to make sure that the needs of your patrons are met. First and foremost, partner with your vendors. That's what today's RUC is all about, taking advantage of everything that we collectively have to offer. You know, taking advantage of that collective wisdom. I was joking with Dan before we got started today. I wish I have a picture from the first time we met. It was a very, very long time ago. So we've had many years together working through some of these issues with our customers. And then understanding your markets. So different trends in health sciences than you might see in some of the humanities or some of the sciences that you are offering on campus. You know, different trends of market growth and of course needs right now, again, with COVID-19 and everything going on with the pandemic, access to health sciences information is really at the forefront of a lot of campuses. So we have the tools to help you with those needs. Okay, so why Rittenhouse and Doodys? Doody Enterprises. Specialized users in health sciences require specialized content. So it's a little bit different case to case and program to program in the health sciences. And it's a lot of information about a lot of different areas. So we're here to help with that. We know that in an academic setting, Oftentimes, you don't have a specialized health sciences librarian, especially with some of those staffing issues we talked about. So we are here to help and increase that familiarity with health sciences. AACN, ANA, and a lot of the other authorities believe that education has one of the strongest impacts on a nurse's ability to practice, and that patients deserve the best educated nursing workforce possible. So that goes without saying. You want to make sure that your patrons, your students, and your professionals have the best information at their fingertips. And some of the services and tools we're going to talk to you today really helps to inform that. And again, health sciences is very multidisciplinary. So there's a lot of overlap between education, research, and clinical care. And we can really help to dig through some of that. And especially some of the services we're going to talk about today, they help to add some clarity to some of these ongoing questions that you might have at your academic library. Okay, so what do you do with all this information? Well, we're going to show you and talk a little bit about some of the services that we have that you can take advantage of and that will help you to better understand and service some of these markets. Okay, so Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you.
So thank you, Nicole. From the very beginning of our company, we have been partnering with Rittenhouse because we develop as I said, information tools about the health sciences book literature that help particularly librarians decide and to make the best decisions for their collection. And that's exactly, that aligns very closely with Rittenhouse's mission. And so that allowed us to be great collaborators and partners for about 28 years now. So within Rittenhouse's information services, which Nicole is going to be describing in some later slides, you can find the reviews from duties. You can see whether or not a title has been designated as either a duties core title or a further designation as an essential purchase title. I want to just take a moment about that. There are better than 190,000 titles in print in the health sciences. And of those 190,000 titles, we have experts selecting the core titles every single year. The 2020 edition, there's about 2,190 titles selected, and they were selected by content specialists and librarian selectors. That's those 2,190 titles, that represents 1.7% of all of the titles available. Now, within those core titles, the librarians further who have selected those titles, we asked them to go in there and make a designation of just those titles they consider to be absolutely essential purchase titles. And that's fewer than 700. It's about 25% of the 2,100 titles have been further designated as essential purchase titles. Nicole has put on this slide a couple of nice URLs for you to look at. You can get a 5-minute video tour of Doody's core titles and find all of the what the content's about and all of the features of our website that make that content accessible. We've also, in response to COVID-19, we've created a book list for free that gives you lots of information on about 45 different titles that are we consider to be essential information for people on the front lines. Next. So what is the Doody's core titles and why did we get involved with it? For any of you who've been health sciences librarians for more than 15 years, you remember a very revered list called the Brannon and Hill list that was out for about 35 years, put together by 2 librarians from Mount Sinai Hospital. One year they would come out with medical books, the next year they'd come out with nursing and allied health books. But librarians around the world would consult this list as a list of books that were worth considering purchasing. In 2004, it was announced that Brannon and Hill would no longer be producing their list, and they were not going to be licensing their name to anybody, so the list was basically going to disappear. And at that point, Rittenhouse and a few others, some publishers and some librarians came to Doody's and said, you know, you guys are non-commercial. You just provide information about information. You don't sell any of these books. You're kind of in a good position to carry on the Brannon and Hill list or start a Brannon and Hill list. And so we did some research and decided that this was a real need and that we probably were well positioned to fill that need. And we decided we'd do it as long as we could modernize it significantly. So Brannon and Hill list had been a print list. We wanted to do this online only. Brannon and Hill were two librarians making the selections. We decided it needed far greater expertise than just two people. And so we recruited more than 100 volunteer librarians to help us with selection of the books. The list is for sale. Individual libraries pay us either $55 for a basic version or $160 for a premium version. And it's also licensed by distributors and aggregators like Rittenhouse, so people can get access to the full list through their favorite distributor or aggregator. The first edition came out in December of 2004, and we published in the 17th. This year was the 17th consecutive annual edition that we produced. So how does it come together? Well, we gather about 180 professionals who volunteer to select these books and rate them and score them. Among those 180 are 74 content specialists, and this year, 106 librarian selectors. There's a 4-step process that the librarians go through in the content specialist. The first step is the content specialists make the initial selections in their own areas of expertise. And then we have up to three librarian selectors assigned to each specialty. They review those selections and they can both take titles off the list and they can add titles to the list. And then we ask the librarians to go through all of those lists and rate each book on a scale of 1 to 3 according to 5 different collection development criteria that our library board has put together. And then, as I said, after all of the selections and scoring have been done, we ask the librarian selectors to go in one more time and select the essential purchase titles. And the essential purchase titles represent about 25% of all of the titles selected. So this is a sample book record of a Doody's Core title from our website, from the Doody's Core Titles website. You can see we've got bibliographic information on the top half of the page. Below the bibliographic information is descriptive copy provided by the publisher. Underneath the picture to the right where it says premium content, you can see that you can click off to read the expert review or the questionnaire. This is a book that has an expert review, and as you can see up in the upper left-hand corner, 4 stars from the review. And you can also see up on top that this happens to be a book that's authored by the R2 Digital Library. And underneath the R2 Digital Library logo, you can see a link that allows you to link right to the R2 site and decide whether or not you'd like to acquire this book in an e-version for your library. So we also have a second service. The original flagship service of Doody's is called Doody's Review Service, and this is where we review newly published medical books. There's about 3,000 books published every single year, and we review about 2,000 of them. Our goal was to create a service for medical librarians that would be very similar to the service that the American Library Association was providing to academic librarians, their Choice book review service. So at the time we started, Choice was about 15 years old, and here it is 28 years later, and both Doody's Review Service and Choice are going strong. We know how valued this is as a collection development tool because our users tell us. We send our subscribers a personalized email every single Friday, and over the last 12 months, that email has been opened on average 51% of the time. Those same subscribers to Doody's Review Service have privileged access to the Doody's Review Service website, and those subscribers on average, in aggregate, access 10,500 unique pages per month on average. So these people really are power users. They're using the Duties Review Service as their primary collection development tool. So the way Duties Review Service comes along, I always describe it as a three-legged stool. We depend on the goodwill and the engagement of three different groups. First of all, we need publishers to send us their books. We've got more than 100 publishers sending us 2 copies of their newly published health sciences books all year long. As I said, there's about 3,000 new titles that we receive. And we've also built up this reviewer community throughout the academic healthcare institutions throughout this country. And as I said, we've got 9,000 reviewers now. All of the reviews are done by these experts, people who are expert in the field and who are academically affiliated. And the third leg is librarians. We would not have a service if the librarians didn't find it useful, and librarians have been telling us for 28 years that this is a very useful service for them. Database of Duties Review Service information, more than 90,000 titles from 110 publishers in 140 specialties. And this is what go ahead and go forward with that. To the next slide, we'll look at a sample review from the Duties Review Service. On the next slide, please. Are we frozen? Nicole, okay, thank you. So this is what a sample page from the Duties Review Service looks like. Again, it's, if you look up at the image on the right, at the top half of it is the bibliographic information. Underneath it is the review. You can see the reviewer is identified by name, by degree, and by affiliation. You can also see up top the 3 different vendors, including our 2 digital library, where the e-version is available from this particular book. And this is just one obvious and great example of the way Duties and Rittenhouse collaborate with each other. Next.
Okay, so Dan, I think I'll be taking it from here for a little bit. Yep. We have licensed the DCT, the DCT Essentials, and the reviews from Doody Enterprises. We make them available for collection development, and I'll show you how. So Rittenhouse.com is where you purchase print books from Rittenhouse. When you are logged in to Rittenhouse.com, you will see along your left nav that there's an option for Doody's core titles. Once you hit that link for Doody's core titles, you will be taken to our Doody's core title page, and we offer a great service here. One, you can just certainly take a look at all of the Doody's core titles and the Doody's core title essentials, everything that has been added to the list this for 2020. But we also have a service where we will customize a Doody's core title update for your library based on what you have already purchased from Rittenhouse. So that first link where you can click to purchase your Doody's core title update is customized. So this will take you into a screen where you will be able to look at everything that you have purchased from the 2020 list and everything that you have not yet purchased from the 2020 list, and create a nice collection of DCT titles and DCT essentials right from these screens. You can add them to a shopping cart and get your pricing, etc. So it's a nice service that we offer, and it's already up and running for 2020. So we do encourage you to take a look at that. When you are looking at a product detail page, I want to just quickly review what our icons look like and where you can see the ratings. So if you look over to the right of your screen, you can see that we have 2 icons. One that is the blue Doody's core title square, and another that's the bullseye. So any title that is a Doody's core title will have the Doody's core title logo, that blue square. And if it's an essential title, it will also have the bullseye. So you can see what that looks like when you look up any title, that information is there. Also, towards the middle of your screen in the red box, you can see what the title rating is. So this Netter Atlas of Human Anatomy is a Doody's core title rating of 3. So that's at the top of the scale, and you know that that's a DCT with a rating of 3. So we put that information right there for you to access. We also provide the star rating if they are available. So you can see right there the stars. This is a 3-star book. And you can also see that there is a hyperlink there to take a look at the review. So we link right out, we give you access to the review right from Rittenhouse.com. It pops up a new screen. You won't lose your session on Rittenhouse, and you can read all about it. So we make that very easy for you to access. And if you're not taking advantage of looking at those, we definitely encourage you to do so. So that's a little bit about our print website. Our eBooks, the r2library.com, that's where you can access all of our offerings for eBooks. And we have done a lot with Doody's Core Titles, Doody's Core Titles Essentials, and also Doody's Review Service, the new COVID-19 book list. So we have curated collections based on these designations. So when you are looking at the filter option, when you're looking at purchasing eBooks, you can hit any one of those links and you will be able to get out and take a look at the list of titles. So here we have 5 of those 45 COVID-19 books that Dan mentioned. We've curated them in a collection based on those designations from Doody Enterprises. We have Doody's core title collections. So I mentioned we have a really robust collection of Doody's core titles. We have almost 600 of the 2020 Doody core titles available on the R2 Digital Library, but I've curated a list here that's specific to nursing. So you have 123 nursing DCT titles available. And again, you can see we use the same icons on the R2 website as we do on Rittenhouse.com. So we make it really easy for you to quickly and easily curate a list of titles based on the DCT and the DCT essential designations. One other thing that we offer is that we have 95 eBooks on the R2 Digital Library that have 5-star reviews. So the best of the best, really. These are the books that through Doody's review service have received 5 stars. We've curated that list for you. You can use the sort and filter if you just wanted to look at. This is 95 in nursing, actually. There are more than that if you look across all of the areas. But I've used the sort and filter here to curate it for nursing. And you can go ahead and look at all of the titles that have 5-star reviews. So it's just another way, especially in an academic setting, that we're giving you a tool. If you're moving from print to electronic, that you will be able to open up the best of the best for your patrons. Okay, we also offer the Doody Star rating on the R2 Digital Library. I've circled it there in the middle of the screen. And you can also pop up the review just like you can from print. So just look for that information as you're looking through those selections within the R2 Digital Library. So we're winding down on time here, but if you need any of your login information for Rittenhouse or R2 or any assistance using any of those tools that either Dan or I have talked about, just let us know. I did put a hot tip in here. You can create a Doody's core title R2 Digital Library patron-driven acquisition collection. And you can provide access to that at no initial cost. So as I was thinking about this, I was thinking that it's a great way to let the experts and the evidence inform your collection management. So if you want some more information about that, we're happy to work with you on that. So how else can you get involved? We're going to turn it over to Dan just for a second.
So we always need librarian selectors. So we're doing a case study here. We had 3 librarian selectors in the 2020 in the subject area of neurology, and here they are listed. If we go to the next slide, we'll take a specific look at Shelley McKibben. So Shelley is a librarian selector. She's worked with us for many years. She's from Dalhousie in Nova Scotia. And she was a librarian selector in 5 different specialties. Neurology was just one of them, and you can see the other 4 where she was active with us. Next slide, please. There's other opportunities. We publish articles written by librarians in our both Doody's collection development newsletter, as well as the Doody's Court title newsletter. And we have another type of guest article in Doody's Collection Development Monthly that allows librarians to talk about products or services that they've successfully launched. Next, please. So for those of you who know us, Ann Hennessy has been our editor-in-chief for all 27 years we've been in business. The 2020 edition was 17th and last because she is retiring. However, we have a successor to Ann named Claire Connor, who's our managing editor. You can reach out to Claire directly here if you want to be a librarian selector on the 2021 Doody's Core titles. The work begins in mid-January of next year. Over to you, Nicole.
Yeah, so we have a few minutes, or well, we're right at time, but if you have a question, we're happy to answer your questions. We can hang on the line for another minute or two. If you have to jump off, we completely understand that. As I said, a recording of this webinar will be available. Dan, we did have a question come in for you, just about how the pandemic has affected your work on DCT.
Oh, what a great question. Yeah, well, we start work, the librarians start work every year in January, so they began their work in January. The final deadline was about maybe like April 5th. And as you know, most people went into shelter in place in remote work situations around March 20th, which is the kind of the crunch time for Doody's Core titles. But it's just a great testimony to the type of conscientious professionals that librarians are. Nobody missed their deadlines, and they completed the work on time. And for the 17th consecutive year, we published DCT on time and to our deadline. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, that's great. I had another question come in about Doody's Core titles and Rittenhouse evidence-based acquisition, which is our patron-driven acquisition model. Someone asked what the cost is, and really, there is no cost to start a DCT patron-driven acquisition collection. You can curate that and make it available via R2. You can start with PDA, and it's mediated. So as those books are triggered and added to your shopping cart, you decide what you'd like to purchase. So that's a really great question, and we'll definitely follow up to see if you have any additional questions. Dan, another question for you. Do participating librarians get free access to Doodys?
That's a wonderful question, and I wish we could allow that, but we can't because we have librarians from representing so many different libraries, and the cost of DCT is just $50. What they do get is a HIP credit for doing it, and the certificate from Doody Enterprises for their. We also provide gifts every year to librarian selectors, and we typically hand them out at MLA when the librarian selector comes and visits us, and for those who don't, we mail the gifts to them.
Great. Someone asked if they're interested in a DCT PDA, can they email me? And certainly you can email me at nicole.gallo@rittenhouse.com and we'll get you going. Absolutely. Okay, well, I think we've gone over, we're about 5 minutes over time here, Dan, so we'll let everybody go. But we do really appreciate your time today. We want to thank you for taking the time. I know a lot of you are sheltering in place, so we appreciate that you joined us today, and stay healthy and stay safe out there. Have a great day.